Okay, so let me walk you through the article itself that you're going to be writing and the steps you're going to be taking to get it done. Now, I've broken it all down. This is a sort of a summary of it, and I have a more complete one that I'll show you in just a second. But just to go over it briefly, you're going to analyze what makes a feature article, and that's what we started doing. And I'll come back to this. Then you're going to read one example and peruse all and analyze it, decide what to write, post on Padlet that you want to write about, your idea. Then you're going to create a pitch and upload it either into OpenLab or on Google Drive. Do whatever research you need to do and to post a couple of short annotations about two sources. Now, this is not the kind of annotation you did in 1101, that big, long, reflective, annotated bibliography. This is just what it is, a couple of sentences summary, and a sentence or two about whether you think it can be useful or not, and you just put it in your folder in your drive, and then write a draft and upload it to your folder. Now that sounds pretty simple, right? So let me go through some of this stuff. First thing I'm going to do is take you over here. These are in class activities. Here's this little picture about how to structure the article with the beginning, engaging opening, often a story. Let me go back over here. In fact, this is what's over there. The hook at the introduction, the very beginning of it, is a story about somebody. Could be you, could be somebody else. I told you about the student with the black holes. It was about him. It doesn't have to be. It can be about, like with the coronavirus thing, it was about a specific patient in China. Okay, it can be a question or a quote, just something interesting to get us going. Then there's the nut graph, which I'll show you in just a second. A little bit of initial research, and this gets us through the first part of the article, and then we get into the body with more stories, information, visuals, and then the conclusion. The classic way to conclude a feature is to finish off the story that you started up here in the hook, but you don't have to. You can add, you can give advice. It can be a call to arms, a great final quote, a bit of information. There's any number of ways to conclude it, but it should be something that ties itself together. Okay, so that's what really makes a great feature article, is all of these components working together. All right. So what the heck is a nut graph anyway? Well, let me go over to the back over here to the class resources and show you what a nut graph is. This is all down. The easiest way to get to it is just to click on this. So what the heck is a nut graph? All right, this is something that Carrie Hall put together, and the whole presentation is really for in class. But so I'm not going to show you all of it. But I'm going to drop myself down out here for a second. It explains what your topic is, why it matters, and why they should care. That's what a nut graph does. My son-in-law hates nut graphs, he says, because they're really hard to write. You often write them last, after you got everything else done. But it's just, it's just one of those things. So it's what it is. A nut graph says why you care, why should your reader care, who does it affect, how is it relevant to broader issues in the field. Like if you're writing about game development, why does it affect the field as a whole? Or if it's a general thing, why it affects the rest of us. This looks weird. At least move my mouth like it. Okay. So you can and should answer at least some of these questions, but you don't have to answer all of them. But that's what a nut graph does. Okay. So you try to put your finger on when you're doing an analysis, the paragraph where the author tells us, the writer tells us this. Okay. So the nut graph itself is what a journalist calls a nutshell paragraph, which is sort of the story in a nutshell piece of it. It explains the context of the topic and gives you, and I'm reading off, which I don't normally do, it gives you more or less the essence of the story. It often follows that lead, that hook, that opening, and because all the hook does is to get your attention. Then the nut graph says that you're up close. It's like a close-up in a film, and that's what the lead is for, the hook is for. And then the nut graph widens out to a mid-shot or a wide shot, so that puts it all in context. It explains why it's important and why it should matter. Do not tell the reader, this is why it matters, just sort of talk about what's important about it, right? So it provides the how and the why. It's important and how it happened, right? So it's you don't just leave them dangling. You're beginning to give them a little bit of a roadmap of where they're going to go. So these are some couple of nut graphs. And what nut graphs are is they will give us one or all of these things. They'll tell us that it's something new, right? That it's unique. We'll get a unique perspective from somebody who's, like the guy in China, right? That's a very unique perspective because he was sick and they didn't know why. Why is it timely? Well, at that point it's like, there's this virus and I don't know what's going to happen, but so you can do all of these in your nut graph, or in your article, but you don't have to. And so but the nut graph tells us what it is of these three things that's important. So here's a couple of examples. This is again from the Times. Here's the nut graph, and an increasing number of recent long-term studies. And it starts off with a woman talking about how she eats nothing but peanut butter or something like that. An increasing number of recent long-term studies has linked greater optimism to a lower risk of developing cardiovascular disease. Right, so that's why should we care? Because we all want to live to be old. Who does this affect? Pretty much all of us. Why is it information? Well, because it's recent long-term studies, right? And particularly these days, optimism makes a big difference. So this is this nut graph answers these questions. Right? Here's another one. This one's talking about fast food or fad diets. And the newer diets that are they don't cut out a lot of stuff. It's just how do you eat it? How do you eat smart? And so it starts off with somebody eating a whole bunch of junk food. And then, how they got sick and how people don't, how this person went on and off these diets like forever. And then this nut graph shows up and says, that's just not a practical way to do it. And this is why the new ones work, right? Timely. The reader cares because we all care. It affects all of us. What's new, unique, or timely. It's not the old way of doing things. So this is, some examples of what a nut graph does. So let me take you back over here to this. All right. So that's what a nut graph does, and you'll see it better when you get into looking at the ones that you're going to analyze. So that's a nut graph, all right? So when we get over here to perusal, which is the second step. You're going to pick one of these four. It says mentor text. This one from Sports Illustrated is by Cory Booker about how student athletes are not treated very well. So he's trying to create a bill that would be the NCAA Student Athletes Bill of Rights, and he talks about why that's important. This one from Science News is about how coronavirus is making our brains scrambled because of the stress of it. This one is from Vox, is about privacy, the year privacy died, in 2020. These are a little bit out of date, but especially this one with what's going on with the Supreme Court about privacy issues is very timely still. And then this one from New York Magazine is marriage obsolete? That's kind of like an evergreen topic, but that's what journalists call an evergreen, is something that just never goes out of style. People are always interested in it. So you're going to pick one of these. You don't have to do all of them. So if you want to do, say, this one about Sports Illustrated, if you open it and you go way down, and I've already got it here, way down to the bottom, you'll see, or you should see, this. All right. So what I've done is to ask you to read it once and then go back and sort of analyze it using a mentor analysis worksheet, which is a template. You do not have to post the worksheet anywhere. It's just to give you information so that you can post a comment, a reply to this prompt here. So what does this mentor thing look like? Well, it's over in the Google Drive, right here. Right. Don't write on here. If you want to use this, download it into your own computer and do it yourself. But you do not have to upload this anywhere, or you can just look at this and make notes someplace. It doesn't matter. You don't have to upload this thing. But this will help you sort of figure out what's going on in that article. So, which one is it? What's the hook? How does it start? Is it a story, a question? What is it? What's the nut graph? Where is it? Sometimes it's farther down than you think it is. Sometimes it's right up top. It's just, where is it and what is it doing? Where's the first bit of research, of information from outside sources? Sometimes it's before the nut graph and sometimes it's after. So it sort of makes a difference. It's interesting to see where that happens. How's research used throughout it? How many from experts, data, quotes, visuals. What visuals are there? Are the graphs and charts? Are they just decorative images? How do they work together? Right? And then what is the conclusion? Does it finish the story? Is it an interesting quote, call to action? Does it include a formal information list or box, what we call sidebars? Some of them do, right? So you kind of look at this and you use that information to go back over here and leave a comment about whichever one of these you've looked at. So you're going to pick one of these mentor texts, you're going to read it once, and then you go through and use that worksheet, answer those questions, and then put whatever comments you want to about the article what you found going through here. Now, a good thing, a lot of my students will do this. They will go ahead and highlight and say, oh, this is the nut graph. Isn't this the nut graph? Or I'm not sure, is this the nut graph? Or wow, this is really interesting information. I can't believe he tricked me. There's all kinds of things that people can annotate. I encourage you to annotate. Even if you don't annotate, you need to answer. Leave the thing at the prompt at the end. Okay. So it's one of these four. So that's what you do. You analyze that, right? So you analyze one of these end result. Should give you an idea of what these look like. Pay really close attention to the introduction because you're going to want to fall back into, in the beginning of time, we were worried about student athletes. Well, no, you can't say that. That's kind of dumb. So don't say that. All right. So you're going to want to do that. So you have to really pay close attention when you're analyzing these articles, how they start. Right. That makes a big difference. Then you can decide what you want to write about, and in this overview and roadmap page, which I actually have already got up here someplace. Well, back up. It's this thing. It's the same as this. Right. This is the more extensive thing. There's a bunch of questions here. I'm going to go through and do this. Deciding what to write. There's some questions here. If you're having trouble figuring out what you want to write about, and everybody goes, oh, I don't want to write about, go back to your discourse community or answer these questions. Okay, these are really good questions. I use it with my screenwriting students, believe it or not. What I know a lot about is what I'm passionate about. What I start Googling when I have nothing better to do. What I would go crazy if somebody told me I had to stop doing something that makes me really angry. Okay, so write those questions out, and then you're going to put those answers in a post that you're going to post to Open Lab on a new post. Okay, so this is a way to start figuring out what you want to write about. And the bottom line on all this is this is all about curiosity. What you want to write about, what you want to learn more about, you can write about really effectively and efficiently. Okay, so that's what that is. Decide what to write about, and then put the answers to the questions in an Open Lab post. Then the next thing you're going to do is to go back to Padlet. Go to this Padlet, and come on, Padlet, work. Create a new post. Put your name in the title, so I'll know what we're talking about. And tell us what you're going to write about, and add an image. It's kind of like when you did the discourse analysis one, discourse community stuff. Same thing, but now you're going to be telling us what you're going to write about. Now, this is the place where everybody should go keep an eye on this wall, because leave information or suggestions for each other. I had a student one term writing about how we talk about homelessness in America, and this was in class. And what I do when I'm in class is I get these big, huge Post-its and stick them on the wall, and everybody has to go around and leave a comment for everybody else. And on this guy's Post-it, one of the students noted that she and her family had just come out of a homeless shelter, and she could put him in touch with the director, which she did. He went and talked to the director, did some interviews with people, the shelter, changed the names and put some things from the interview into his piece, and we were all in tears. By the time we read it, it was really good, right? So sometimes you get the most interesting and useful information and suggestions from each other. So that's why this Padlet is important for everybody to kind of pay attention to. All right. Then you're going to create a pitch. And let me go back over to this thing, which is not there, but is up here. In fact, this one. You're going to be writing a pitch. Now, you know, for most things in college, you write proposals. Well, in the future world, you write a pitch. And they're a little bit more interesting than writing just a boring proposal. So this is what you're going to write is craft a pitch, right? There's a subject line, what your topic is, a hook. It can be one you might end up using in your article, but it doesn't have to be. Just anything you want to. Talk about the topic, you know, and, you know, sort of why it's important. A couple of sentences. Why it will appeal to the readers of that particular publication. Like, why does this appeal to game developers? Right? Why you're the best person to write this. This is why you're interested in it. And I made this one up. This one's silly. You know, why climate change may mean no more guacamole. And then I had this little, means some foods may completely disappear. You know, that's what it is. Possible problems, possible solutions, audience appeal. This was to the New York Times or New Yorker magazine, so it's an upscale audience. And why would they be interested? Because that's what these people do. You know, they want to be an urban gardener or something. Why I'm the best person to write this. You know, a little bit of backstory. Okay. So you're gonna do this. You're gonna create yourself a pitch, and once you do the pitch, you will upload it into make a post on OpenLab, or you can put it in the Google Drive. And the thing about the Google Drive, the Unit 2 Google Drive, is it's got, let me go over here. Within the Unit 2 thing, create your own folder. So create a folder. So this would be Jackie's folder. Jackie's folder, okay? And inside that folder, I can do annotations. I can put, here's my pitch. All right, so there's the pitch. I can do a new document. I could put annotations, which I talked about and talk about again in a minute. Annotations also here, right? That, and then I can also, when I get around to it, I will upload my feature article. Right, so you're going to create your own folder to hang on to stuff, and so I can kind of keep an eye and see what's going on. Right, so that's what you'll be doing with the folders in Unit 2, is creating your own folder to put your stuff in. And the first thing you put in there, if you don't want to create a post on OpenLab, is your pitch. Okay, so you put your pitch there. And then do your research. Now, if you've never done a KWL plus research activity, which is really kind of fun, you don't know what questions to ask. This is what a KWL looks like. This should be over on right here. Okay. This is how you do it. Set your timer for 5 minutes. Write down everything you know about the topic. But stop at 5 minutes. You know, stop. And then another 5 minutes, you start generating who, what, when, where, why, and how questions about the topic. You know, who did this? When did it start? Where can I go to get more information? Who knows about the, you know, all that kind of stuff. Then do some initial research, and then take another for about 10 or 15 minutes, and take another 5 minutes to write down quickly what you learned, and then write yourself some more questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how questions after that, and keep going. So this KWL Plus thing is a really useful tool when you're trying to figure out how you're going to research and what kind of questions you're going to be asking. So this is a really great thing to use, and that's what this is. Okay. Again, you're not required to use the library or peer-reviewed articles, although you can if you want. During the regular term, we require people to go out and do interviews, or not just go out, I mean, on the phone or on the internet, do interviews. It wasn't my student, but in another class, a student created a Google form survey that she sent out to a whole bunch of people that she knew about changing attitudes about fashion during the pandemic. It was really cool, and she did this wonderful graph of all of her survey question answers. That was great. So you can do something like that if you want to. So after you do research, you get a couple of sources, do that short annotation, and I'm going to go back over here to my annotation. Whoops, where'd it go? This thing. To show you what those look like. I'll get all these links all straightened up. So this is what the annotation looks like, just a little bit of bibliographic information, right? A one-sentence summary, what stood out to you, a commentary on why the source is useful, and then you can talk about, how they got their thing across, and then put a quote in there. So it's really short. The ones that I get from students are usually no more than a couple, 3 paragraphs. You don't have to get into any really detailed rhetorical analysis. This is really just about the information you're looking up and how you can use it. And the reason I say grab a quote and put it in there is so you will remember that you have that quote. It's not busy work. It's so you can remember it. You can use videos, so just write down what's in the video. Anything, okay? You can use articles, you can use videos, interviews, podcasts, Instagram stories, Twitter threads, anything you want to. Anything counts as a source for when you're doing a research. Just as long as you do that brief little annotation about what it is, where it came from, what it is, and why you find it useful, and then a quote from it. All right? So after you do that, all of that, then you write the draft. Now, there are good ways and bad ways to write the drafts. The best way is to write the text all out and gather your images, and then go put it in Canva, which I don't have the link on here, but I will. Canva is a really great tool if you've never used it before. It's free unless you try to upload something that's got a crown on it. This, for example, that's not Canva. This is Canva. And you can use, I'm going to put this link in up here as soon as I finish this, because I forgot to do it. Magazine feature article. You can you pick one of these, and you can take your text and just swap it out for what's in here. You can throw that out and put more little body text and type, right, and move it around. Put it up here. Pictures, you can put let's see, pictures is elements. Now, if you want to do these things, there's stickers. I want to put black holes, just for the heck of it. So here's a picture of a black hole. Now, you don't want to pick the ones with the crown because they'll charge you money for them. So you want to do either the ones that are free, or you can upload ones that you want. I've got it in my account. I've got tons of things uploaded, right, including just all kinds of stuff. So Canva is a really great tool to use. So you can swap in pictures, but it looks really really professional. You can add a page that has the same background, and then just start adding stuff and dragging it over there. I'm going to talk more about this later in the week. I'll do another video about Canva. But my students who have used it in the past really like it because it just looks cool, and it also helps them really focus on what they've written. So it's not all just one big fat paragraph. So it actually looks like a feature, like I keep saying. All right, so that's the general overview of the thing. Your best friend is going to be this breakdown, which is also it's not just here. You can't just get to it from here. You can also go to class resources, feature article information, and then this is more about this. This is these features I talked about before. How to do a KWL, stuff about how to write a nut graph, and where did it go? Where is it? There it is. Okay, so this has got all the information on it you need that I've just been over. Step by step, analyzing, deciding what to write, targeting your audience, pitching your article, writing the pitch, doing your search, and then writing your draft, okay, and what that's supposed to entail. So this is the document you probably should go look for first. Hang on to it, and with that, this has gotten entirely too long, and so I'm going to sign off. Text me on Slack. Thing to remember is Open Lab is going to be down Friday night to Saturday afternoon. Not that it matters, but at this point. But I'm going to put another video up later in the week about using Canva and some other things. Okay, go figure out what you're doing. Follow the sheet, and you'll be great. I'll see you soon.